Gen Z's aging epidemic. And as a 24-year-old who looks like he's about to die, I feel very targeted. So let's see.
Sometimes I subject myself to competitive video games that attract a younger demographic, like Valorant. And a few weeks ago, I got destroyed by some kids for how old I was. I don't remember how the conversation got to this point, but I eventually said something like,
who have the most time to just play around and have fun and not be serious in life? Kids. And also, they're fucking brutal.
I graduated high school in 2015.
I don't play games that much.
And after that, everyone on my team started referring to me as Unk. Unk? Really, man? I was born in 1997. I'm only 28 years old. I'm still considered...
And yet, he looks younger than me. And I was born in 2001 and I'm 24.
Gen Z. They quizzed me on new internet acronyms like SYBAU, which stands for Shut Your Ass Up, and were shocked that I was able to guess right. I'd have to assume that younger generations have always thought people in their late 20s are way older than they actually are, but it feels like Gen Z, maybe more than previous generations, see aging and getting old as a thing to be avoided at all costs.
Nah.
And ironically enough, sentiments are being shared online about Gen Z looking much older than millennials.
Yep.
I'm 25.
If this guy lost weight and if this guy got a hair transplant, he would immediately look like he's 23. Okay, trust me, just trust me. I've seen crazy shit like that.
I'm not even gonna pretend like I look like what a 25-year-old should look like.
Same.
I don't like to just assume that the general opinion is fact because a few popular media outlets reported on it and then a bunch of creators decided to make videos for higher engagement, kind of like me. So why don't we actually see what's going on with ageism and aging in Gen Z? How beauty standards have shifted, how technology...
Well, for men, the main thing for men is abuse of drugs and alcohol that destroys your health and skin. But it's also, and this isn't out of your control, having a beard. And if you want to have a beard, you look older, right? Like if I shave my beard, I'm not gonna look this old, okay? But also hairline. If you have a nice hairline, nice hair like Cole has, you will look younger. Hence why I'm planning to get a hair transplant one day, but I'm not gonna get my beard out, okay? I love my beard.
It's created new possibilities and unrealistic expectations for immortality, and why some Gen Z might feel immense pressure to rack up millions before they reach 18. Can we all agree that beauty standards are absolutely cooked? Dudes will see a picture of Ice Spice without makeup, then call her chopped with a dead rose emoji, not realizing they just exposed themselves as never having stayed the night with a woman before.
Yep.
I'm not saying you have to find every celebrity attractive.
I mean, I get why they say chopped because of the hairline, but it's like, I'm not the one to speak, plus I'm not the most attractive guy either.
But if you're a guy and every picture you see of a woman without makeup leaves you repulsed, you've either let social media completely warp your standards, or you might just like men.
90% of women that I've seen without makeup look 99% of women that I've seen without makeup look better without makeup. Okay, that's and that 1% body positivity.
Sorry to break that to you. What we frequently choose to consume through our eyes and ears drastically affects how we perceive the world and establishes a baseline level of expectations for each of those things.
Yeah.
If you grow up in a culture where people say hi to you as you walk by them, it will feel weird when someone...
And if you live in a big city, mostly in Europe and North America, that shit is like, why are you talking to me? Well, what is wrong with you? But when I go to a village, especially with older folks, much friendlier, much more extroverted and so on, not as fucking brain dead and brain rotted from social media, you know. But at the same time, they're very unaware of what a lot of stuff happening in the world, which I guess it's healthy.
You get most of your dopamine from highly stimulating sources. Any slow, monotonous task is going to feel painful.
I cannot read to save my life. I try.
On Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, where people post how they look 1% of the time, often with filters and touch-ups included. Anytime you aren't on those platforms, average or even objectively very attractive people are just going to look okay to you. No other generation has dealt with this.
So that's why, even though realistically I'm a 4 out of 10, let's say a 4, right? Maybe some women are going to see me as a 5 out of 10, right? If they are brainwashed by social media and fakery and filters and makeup and plastic surgery, now I'm a 2. Especially my face.
At the scale at which it is present today. The pillars of beauty,
I don't like this. That's not that much. This is too much.
Deciding that this is what young people should aspire to look like. And as a result, these treatments have become socially acceptable for people who aren't even old enough to get a tattoo. This is a big reason we are seeing the sentiment shared that Gen Z is not aging well.
Hopefully she doesn't grow up and like destroy her fucking face. Like she looks normal as a kid should look like. Come on.
Especially in regards to women. There are countless examples of women in their late teens and early 20s getting Botox and lip filler to enhance their appearance, either too young to understand the consequences or too young to care. Botox comes with a host of side effects, including vision problems, muscle weakness, and even drooping.
Like, have you seen what looksmaxers are doing? They're like injecting drugs, doing drugs, going on crazy retarded diets and so on. They don't give a when it comes to looks, some people go through extremes. They don't care about fucking if they're gonna have health problems at the age of 40, and then when they will actually be 40, they'll be crying.
Eyelids for weeks after injection. And the thing about these treatments is they don't even necessarily give you the beauty you were striving for.
Yeah.
They just make you look older than you actually are.
Especially as you age.
Look both youthful but mature enough to have a sophisticated look instead of a childish look is certainly something young people feel now more than ever, and it's even spread to guys too in the form of looksmaxing. We got this clavicular guy I brought up a couple of videos ago promoting Botox, injecting testosterone,
made a video on them.
Bone smashing to improve your jawline. Not familiar with bone smashing, you say? This is a pseudoscientific protocol in which one...
Most looksmaxing is pseudoscience. But, you know, going to the gym and eating healthy, especially more red meats, that's not pseudoscience. But all of this other shit...
hits their cheekbones with a hard object to create microfractures that are supposed to help them grow back bigger. And that's another thing indicative of youth that the youth clearly wants to get rid of. Chubby cheeks. When we're young, fat in the face is evenly distributed, but it has pockets that plump up in places like the forehead and...
My cheeks are chubby as fuck. I am fat as fuck right now, and I'm leaning down to get abs for the... Well, I don't care about leaning that much. At least like 15-14% body fat for the summer. But even though I probably won't go to a vacation anywhere because, you know, finances.
Cheeks. But what's a beauty standard that's considered highly aspirational now? Hollow cheeks. So we have teenagers who watch videos like this, a video that's already gotten 1 million views in 3 weeks, doing gua sha, 1 million different facial treatments, and maybe even Ozempic.
I just get these, not to this extreme, but I do naturally get a little bit of hollow cheeks when I lean down enough for summer, and you know, I have more definition on my muscles.
Just to reach a face that was normally reserved.
That on the right is fucking scary.
Having more fat in your face actually fills out wrinkles and fine lines, making them less noticeable and making you look younger. So the sad irony is that in the process of pursuing eternal youth, Gen Z ends up looking older than if they were just to let their bodies naturally age.
Well, it's not about just looking youthly. They want to look like this perfect adult type of model that's like Kim Kardashian, like, but for both males and females, right? And when you do that at a certain age, like if you do that at the age of 35, I get it, okay, sure. But when you do it at the age of, I don't know, 20s, in your early 20s, you just look way older than you actually are. And you don't look like a kid anymore, which is, you know, that's, well, you're not a kid at the age of fucking 20, but you know what I mean. You still look like a kid to a lot of people. Like, I'm all for skincare, going to the gym, and adequate nutrition. But it's like, sometimes plastic surgery, I think, is needed. If you have a deformed face or something, or whatever, or a body part, like I've seen people with deformed arms and stuff, and they get surgeries. I think that is fine. That's what body positivity should be about, you know, not about all that fat shit.
Further contributing to their body image issues. Another factor that might play a role in this idea of aging being bad is, weirdly, how much emphasis we're placing on biohacking and optimization. One person leading this cause I want to talk about...
He still looks old. Like, he doesn't look like he's 50. Well, he doesn't look like he's 50, but like, he has clear skin, he's lean, he's got muscle, he's got a great hairline, but yeah, he looks way better than the average person his age. I think he's like 50, 60 something, right? But it's like, you still look old. You can't escape it. Like, you can't have like the skin of a 20-year-old at this age. I'm sorry.
Johnson.
Maybe one day.
Brian's a great guy, and he's promoted some amazing protocols to help people live healthier, happier lives. But what I don't necessarily agree with him on is the way that he talks about immortality.
Let me ask you this with that. Do you actually think it might be that you won't die at all, or just, you know, you're looking to extend your lifestyle or lifetime beyond what now we consider possible?
Yeah, I think it's legitimately the first time any human in history could say with a straight face we may be the first generation to not die.
How does that statement make
That is the scariest shit possible. You're telling me that I can be immortal one day and never fucking die? Well, if I'm gonna become immortal, at least let me be immortal at, you know, at the age of, I don't know, 25 and just, you know, be the same energy and the same bodily health forever. But if I become immortal, but my body ages physically, mentally, you know, health-wise, no. But at the same time, I'm gonna see everybody from my friends and family die. Plus, this world isn't so fucking nice to live it forever, okay? It's not, especially from the place that I come from. And there's much worse places out there. Hell no.
I don't know about you, but the idea of living forever just sucks. Unless you absolutely hate the idea of getting old and you have an intent.
Unless you're a psychopath who wants to one day, I don't know, rule the world like a dictator, then yeah, I get it. Why would you would wanna be immortal? Blah, blah, blah.
Fear of it, I can't see why you would want to extend your lifespan indefinitely.
Yeah,
what
same.
I'm picturing right now is like an extremely senile guy in a robo suit. He's just like drooling at the lips, and half of his brain is just like digitized at this point to keep him alive. And this is a huge problem I have with the longevity industry. A lot of the time, it's not focused on treating aging with acceptance and grace, but rather something to be avoided at all costs, which can create a culture of people who see getting old as taboo to talk about.
Yeah, like focus on scientific breakthroughs. Like, yeah, on looks and health, sure, but focus on more niche stuff, on the universe, on like so much more stuff, on technology. Not a lot of people are gonna hate me when I said technology because of AI and shit. But you know what I mean. The world isn't all about all this superficial fucking looking rich and sexy and so on. It's nice, but as you age, you realize that's like that becomes secondary. Your health is always, it should be number one, but everything else, it's like, you think I'm gonna give a fuck that much about my looks at the age of 50? Well, no, if you're a smart, intellectual, successful person, you should be looking at something that how you should improve society and not, you know, be a fucking sexy guy at the age of 55. Fuck that.
The census online that millennials were, on average, much more optimistic in a certain period of their youth than Gen Z is. This is portrayed in the many short-form clips I've been receiving on my feed about what millennial optimism looked like around 2014 to 2016. Even though millennials grew up in a time similar to the present, where America was still recovering from the housing crisis and college tuition was crazy, there was a general feeling that things were getting better and were going to continue to get better, especially in the dawn of the smartphone era. The culture of the internet and social media was fun and experimental, contributing to these feelings of lightheartedness and hope. Though I do think some of this is just a romanticization of the past. We tend to cling to things that remind us of our innocence through low-quality pictures and videos. But if we contrast that to today, it's hard.
If you show me fucking low-quality bad pictures from when I was a kid, I'll cringe. And I'll probably burn the picture. Or your phone, if you're showing it on your phone.
Hard to think about what that romanticization, what that era is going to look like for Gen Z. It'll probably still happen, but Gen Z are reporting...
Let's see, over the last 2 weeks, how often have you been bothered by the following problems? Feeling nervous, anxious, or on edge? I do that. I'm 24/7 because I'm fucking worried about my future, my country, and this world's future, and everybody's future, especially mine, obviously. Feeling down, depressed, or hopeless. Not really depressed, but hopeless. I felt hopeless for a lot of stuff. For the economy, for jobs, because of AI, because of wars, and so on. Thoughts that you would be better off dead, or thoughts of hurting yourself in some way. Let's continue.
The highest levels of anxiety and depression of any
generation. If you feel that way, please contact the
looking older than you actually
professional.
Are. I don't think it's an over-exaggeration to say that Gen Z is experiencing an unprecedented amount of bad news at an extremely unnatural frequency.
And here's the problem, bad news and bad shit always happen, and now it's because it's pushed down your throat so fucking much every single day from 20 different social media sites.
Keep bringing up this article and study, and I'll probably bring it up again, but this National Geographic article about doomscrolling cites a study which shows that watching a traumatic event through social media for a few hours a day evokes the same symptoms of PTSD as the individuals who were actually at the event.
God damn, so that's why I'm this way. Like, I'm just not doomscrolling, but watching videos every single day for hours, mostly because I also want to, you know, make content, but like, still, God, we are ruining our health so much more than we realize by watching this stuff.
In fact, the ones who watched the event repeatedly on their phones experienced more symptoms. You gotta understand that our brains contain these things called mirror neurons. These are cells that fire not only when we perform an action, but also when we watch someone else perform that same action. In a sense, the brain responds as if we're doing the thing ourselves. So when we watch a horrific incident unfold, our mirror neurons react as if we are at the incident, which causes that...
You know what, actually, I think he does have a point, and it's like, that's why we actually get so desensitized of watching this stuff artificially. That's how we think we feel, but our bodies and our chemicals inside, if this is what it is, like our neurons inside, they actually act the same way as if we're actually experiencing that like 200 years ago when we weren't desensitized on all of this dark, fucked up shit.
Extreme distress you feel when you're looking at pixels on a screen that captured the incident. And then there's just everything else that they have to remove themselves from that has been psychologically engineered to keep you addicted and fatigued. Junk food, gambling being everywhere, bad news that makes the world seem worse than it is, but it also actually kind of is sometimes, bombarding your eyes with blue light instead of natural movement. These can all contribute to quicker aging. According to the CDC, from 2007 to 2013, just under 1/3 of teens reported getting at least 8 hours of sleep per night. In 2015, that number...
When I'm employed, when I have a job, I just cannot get enough fucking sleep, man. Now I'm between companies, I'm interviewing in a few companies. I already know when I eventually get a job, it's not gonna... if I get at least 6 hours of sleep most nights, I'll be happy.
Fall, and by 2019, only 22.1% of teens were meeting that threshold. These trends are inversely correlated with time spent on a computer and phone per day, which checks out based on what we know. Another study from 2025 wanted to measure the average number of hours slept per night among adolescents and how that affected their mental health. And they found that 16 to 18-year-olds on average report getting less than 6 hours of sleep per night, and that those who got less sleep on average reported much worse mental health outcomes. I think most of us know sleep is important.
What helps me a lot is just putting the filter, the orange filter on my phone, watching very boring videos on YouTube and going to bed early on, even though I'm still gonna be on the phone because I just cannot escape it. I'm a pussy, I'm sorry. And I eat mostly carnivore. It's like 80% of my diet is mostly carnivore in my head. I'm in a mostly good and clear headspace most of the week. And I've erased any bad sugars from my diet and so on. I don't eat that many carbs. I do eat some fruit from time to time, not most days I don't, maybe 3 days a week, and I eat some vegetables, mostly potatoes, maybe 3 days a week, but it's mostly carnivore, and the rest are just filled in with mostly nuts. I love cashew nuts.
But I still think many of us vastly underestimate
that helps me a lot with sleeping and my mental health and the gym.
Gen Z are in the trenches of what I'd argue is the hardest psychological warfare any young generation has ever gone through, and that might start to reflect itself in their external appearance. But a lot of this stuff, I don't want to definitively say that this is going to lead to Gen Z looking older, and I'll touch upon that a little bit more at the end of the video. Before I do that, though,
it's too late for me, man.
One final thing. The expectations that Gen Z hold for themselves and that older generations hold for them. Now, like I said previously, I think every young generation has a cohort of people who are scared of the idea of getting old, particularly when it comes to getting a job and having responsibilities, not just
I know a lot of them.
But there's also a sense that Gen Z aren't meeting the expectations of both their ancestors and what's being promoted on social media, causing more fear than necessary around growing old. For most of modern history, the expectations for what you should have accomplished by a certain age were pretty straightforward. People graduated high school, maybe went to college, got a job.
Yeah, now you can work for 30 years and graduate college, and you'll be in debt for fucking your whole life that you won't be able to pay off because of college. And at the same time, you'll work even a high-paid job for fucking 2 decades, and you still won't be able to buy a normal, not even that big, normal-sized family house for fucking 4 people. Come on, here, I guess it's the same in the West. I know it is. It's worse in a lot of ways. You cannot even buy a 2-room, 1-bedroom apartment. Come on.
Married and bought a home. These milestones were treated as fixed checkboxes.
Of course we're going to be stressed.
That everyone was supposed
which
to follow,
makes it worse.
And older generations still talk about them as if they're absolute truths rather than artifacts of a very specific economic window. But as most of us know, Gen Z inherited a very different reality.
Yep.
Wages stagnated while college tuition and housing prices skyrocketed.
I think that just started happening even with when boomers started becoming older and older. It like started happening like the wages starting to stabilize or stagnate, and the prices of everything starting to like go up was in like the it started mildly in the 50s and 60s maybe, probably, and then it started going, it started being very apparent in like the 1980s, 90s, right? And then by the time most Gen Zers become adults, like me, it's already too fucking late, okay? We're fucked!
Entry-level jobs now demand
I'll
5
just end
years
it there.
of entry-level experience. And the idea of
And I'm
buying
in the
a home in your
software
early 20s
industry,
is so unrealistic that
which
it's
is trash
basically
right
turned
now.
into a meme. But older people are telling them, when I was your age, I already had a house and 2 kids, and that gap between expectation and reality creates a ton of shame.
Yeah.
Shame is one of the biggest
But at the same time, when you were my age, I'm talking to the boomer right now, right? When you were my age, you wouldn't get fired from a job who pays you minimal wage and you work there for fucking years and you can't buy a home, and you wouldn't get fired just because you tweet something that you believe in some religious or politics stuff. And I'm not saying about extremism stuff, because sadly everything's labeled extremism now if you're not part of a certain group.
Behind the fear of aging, because if you already feel behind at age 18, then every decade that precedes it is gonna feel like a deadline you're sprinting towards that you'll
and
never
having
be able
rich
to meet.
cousins,
and at the same time, Gen Z is bombarded with a completely different set of expectations that older generations didn't really have to deal with. The internet created an entirely new class of ultra successful teenagers who earn more in a year than most people will see in a decade. The moment you open TikTok or YouTube,
like seeing young people making millions so early on, like XQC already has over $100 million just because of that kick deal before he even turned 30, right? So it's like, and you see a lot of these even fake gurus making money out of dumb people, believing them and so on. And it just ruins your mental health so much more, and it like destroys your perception of how the average young person actually is in the West.
You're reminded that someone your age or younger has already made millions, or bought a penthouse, or founded a startup, or built an entire empire out of nothing but their charisma and an iPhone. Even if you logically know that these people represent a fraction of a percentage,
not even
of the population,
not even a percent,
it's still gonna affect you, because this is usually what's going to be promoted the most on social media as well. So now you have 2 competing pressures suffocating the generation from both sides. You have older people who are telling them that they're not hitting their milestones fast enough, while they also have younger people online telling them that they aren't hitting their milestones fast enough. And that can make getting older.
And when I go to the gym and I encounter a lot of newcomers, mostly like teens, and they ask me for advice for lifts or whatever, food, right? I notice, because they say that shit a lot, and they tell me some of that shit, they are so insecure and they think they're so far back now in a gym context, right? Like he's 16, 17, he's coming up to me saying, he's telling me, bro, I'll never be able to get a girlfriend. I'm so fucking look at me, I'm so fat, fuck, man, and my acne, I hate it so much. I'm like, my guy, I looked way worse when I was your age, and I started having sex when I was your age. Shut the fuck up. Work on yourself. Please don't be brainwashed by online fucking culture, okay? And real good people, real good women, trust me, it's not that hard to look above average. If you see the average person walking on the fucking street, they're fat. They're not even walking. Most people walking, there's not even that many people walking. Most people you just see driving, and most of them are overweight or obese. It's like, come on, my guy, come on. You don't even have to have abs to look like above average when it comes to your body these days.
Terrifying. I get it, okay? Not being able to recover as quickly after binge,
especially as you get older,
or getting strange pains in your back or shoulders, and not being at the level of success you thought you'd be at by this age is scary. But if you let that fear guide your decisions, you will only carry more regrets by the time you get to the age that can actually be considered old. Be honest with yourself. At the end of your life, do you think you're going to look back and say, man, I wish I would have delayed my aging through artificial means? Do you think you're going to say, I wish I would have...
I think in the end of my life, I'll probably regret a lot of shit. A lot of shit doing them and a lot of shit not doing them. I am pretty sure that's gonna be it. I'm just gonna be happy that I'll finally die. You know what? And maybe it'll be the opposite. Maybe I'll be just sad because I'll die and because of the shit I didn't experience and do. And the shit I did.
Started a crypto
I don't fucking
scam
know.
and lived
I've
in a
heard very
penthouse in
opposing
LA with
views of people
who are barely
before
my
they
friends. Or are you going to say, I wish I would have allowed myself to age gracefully and used the natural process of aging for growth?
I don't know.
You see, aging and being old is not something to be afraid of. It is, as David Bowie put it, an extraordinary process where you become the person you always should have been. And if you impede upon that, either through endless facelifts, Botox, or...
I don't think there's a predefined thing of you being the person that you always should have been. Like, you work on yourself, you discover yourself, and then you find out who you're supposed to be because you choose that path. And obviously, you should choose the best path possible. But if we're being honest and real, certain stuff and making sure you look as good as possible and as healthy as possible, which will in turn help you look as good as possible, is and will always be a somewhat important point to people. Not the older you are, it won't be as important, but it's always going to be an advantage. But if you just let your whole life be taken over by that, you will probably most likely regret it before you fucking die.
Ignoring responsibilities and burdens, you rob yourself of the unique development that is supposed to occur in every human.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that all forms of delaying aging are inherently bad and that we shouldn't make strides to ensure that everyone feels healthier and is less prone to illness. What I am saying is that there will come a point where your body inevitably starts to give out. I'm 28 years old and I'm already experiencing a little bit of pain in my middle finger on my right hand from using my mouse too much. And I'll try.
He's probably experiencing pain because of fingering a lot of, he's married, I think he is. I'm sorry, Cole, it's just my bad fucking humor, okay? And I had low back problems 2 years ago when I was fucking 21, 22 something, right? And I found a way to work around it and still go to the gym. It's problems with my disc. No doctor help, no fucking therapist help. They're all fucking trash, especially where I am. Even though medical care is free here, it's trash. And I just found a way from diet and exercise and keeping safe from certain types of exercises.
To do what I can to stop that from happening or even reverse this pain. But I know there'll come a point where I can't use my hands in the way that maybe I could have when I was this age right now. And I've come to accept that. Why? Because at least I used these hands to create, to put myself through voluntary suffering and stress and push myself and carry burdens that ultimately...
I'm not gonna lie, I can see a lot of boomers and even older people saying this and saying, I worked in construction and I had a farm and your fingers hurt from typing too much, you fucking moron, soft ass pussy.
Led to me discovering who I was and what I'm capable of.
They're kind of
without
right.
taxing my body in that way, while of course taking care of it through proper recovery, I would not be nearly as confident, purposeful, and fulfilled and at peace as I am today.
I agree.
All wisdom accrued in society is the result of the people who decided to maturate and do the things that aged them. But you somehow think that scar on your hip or that incoming wrinkle on your forehead or that 18-year-old online who sells courses about how to sell courses is indicative that time is running out for you and it's just over. No, you don't have forever. Your body will start slowing down one day. But accepting that fact while working to minimize its impact is what makes you resilient, not denying it for as long as possible. You shouldn't be terrified of growing old. You should be terrified of
growing old, unhealthy, and being 50 and not being able to fucking walk and hike. That's what you should be terrified of. And that's what I tell a lot of my people, my friends, my family. A lot of them get offended. Now I'm this age, you call me old. No, you shouldn't be being offended. Like, there's something when you get an MRI or a DEXA scan, they tell you your biological age. You know what you should be worried about? Going to a DEXA scan, being 25 or 18, whatever, and your biological age being way older than you actually are based on the timeline. And I tell everybody that I know all of the time, focus on good nutrition, focus on good sleep, focus on, physical activity, especially something when it comes to, lifting weights or, building up your muscle. You don't have to be a fucking bodybuilder, but it's very important to maintain a good muscle mass, especially as you age. It's very important. And the most impressive shit isn't the 25-year-old who looks hot as fuck, but is drinking and doing drugs. The most impressive shit that I know, that I've seen, is a 63-year-old hiking the mountain that is very close to my city. Almost every fucking, well, not every day, but almost every second day, he goes hiking. He lives very close to the mountain. He walks his dog every day, and he goes hiking like 3 to 4 days a week. Now that shit, like, he has more endurance than 99% of people that I know that are my age or younger.
Meaning the same. And one more thing, because I said I was going to bring it up, even though it destroys
and he has
the
abs.
dramatic ending here.
And good muscle definition, and good enough
Gen
muscle.
Z looking older is being a little bit blown out of proportion. Yes, I think what I brought up about the fear of aging and all these treatments being unnecessary is valid, but when I look at the majority of Gen Zers in real life that I engage with, all of them pretty much look their age. Don't let these media outlets, which highlight the more extreme cases of body dysmorphia and looks-maxing beauty, distort your perception of everyone who doesn't do all of these things, which is still the majority of Gen Z. Yeah. Just do what you can to prevent illnesses and injuries, stay away from the intense beauty treatments and hacks in general, and don't be afraid to age.
Yep, I agree. And this is what you should be focused on. As I said, focus on your biological age when you get the DEXA scan. And if you can't get DEXA scans, at least, I don't know, like once every 2 years if you want to, why not? Get a DEXA scan, work on your nutrition, work on your fitness, work on your sleeping schedule. And I'm not against surgeries when it comes to, you know, deformation, some crazy deformation or something. But it's like, for 99% of the times that people get surgeries, it's really not needed, and I'm really one of them who wants to, you know, get a hair transplant. It is a type of surgery, but, you know, still, it's not as scary and as bad. Like, a hair transplant surgery isn't the same as getting lip filler or, you know, getting Botox and fake boobs and that. There's a difference, okay? And I can be more acceptive on some stuff. Okay, I can. I agree. Tell me what you guys think in the comments, and take care.